Hi there. For this tutorial video, we are going to look at some of the very cool features that Notation Composer has, and most of these are present also in Notation Musician to help you practice songs so that you can learn your lines. We have here a song that I found on the internet. I play bass and my daughter plays keyboard, and we want to play this as a duet. So I'm using Composer to practice this tune so that she can practice when she's available and stuff. I can practice when I am, and then it will make our time together much more productive. So if you play in a band or other group, it's a great way to practice outside of your time together, and you'll still have a band for backup. So let's get started here. Okay, I'm going to play this just a little bit so you'll see what we're talking about here, or you'll see the file that we're talking about here. Here we go. And that may be a familiar tune to you. Okay, we're going to stop that and rewind it back to the front. Now, you'll notice that we have all of the instruments here. The drum set is the MIDI pseudo pitch drum. Oops, excuse me. And so it's not exactly a 5-line drum kit. We do have fretless bass, and I have this. I've used the staff instrument transpose pitches, and I've transposed the instrument key. Okay, here, transpose instrument key, and you'll notice that that bass line is up an octave. That's the way they're typically written. Okay, so the bass line is written as a bass player, i.e. myself, would read it. You can do that for many other instruments, and that will help you immensely, especially if you play something odd like an E-flat instrument. The notation will look really bizarre if you don't. And we also have the piano part. Okay, it's a 2-hand piano part. So we've got that little jazz trio here. Okay, now I'm the bass player, and really all I want to worry about is the bass line. Now, if you can go up here to the handy dandy part drop list, you can choose very quickly just the part that I want to practice. So I'm going to choose fretless bass. Okay, there it is. Okay, now one of the things that you'll notice here is that this is just the standard notation. Okay, lots of flats, key signatures. Sometimes these are things that you want to work on. Okay. Something that's very helpful, especially for beginning students, I'm going to scoot this over here just a touch, is the easy notes. Okay, now there are 2 ways you can do easy notes. One is to go over here to part and prepare an easy notes part. Now that's helpful if you're just beginning to learn. This will give you a part. I'm going to go through and create it and show you, but it's actually not the one that I'm going to use. Okay, this easy notes part will show you the melody notes in a large font size with pitch letters inside the note heads, with or without chord names. Very nice for creating sort of a fake book style of setup. Okay, we're going to do next, include the lyrics. We don't, well, actually I do have lyrics. I'll show you a little cheater that I did here later. Fretless bass, you can choose whichever you want to do. The staff, which includes the melody notes. Okay, now what this is going to do is it's actually going to, if you have a staff that has multiple notes, it's going to lift out what it thinks are the melody notes, which typically are the top notes in, let's say if you have a 2-hand piano part, it'll be the top notes in the treble clef. Okay. You have some different options here. You can display only the melody notes, move the accompanying notes to a second staff, hide that. You can choose chord style if you want to. You can transcribe chord names, or you can skip the step. and not display chord names. You can choose the font size for that. And when you finish with that, it's going to give you a really nice big display. Okay, that's not exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to go back to my fretless bass part because this is what I want to learn. Okay, and I would like to see the note pitches though. So we're going to go to Format, and we're going to go to Display Pitch Names in Note Heads. Okay, now you have the option here that you can show accidentals in parentheses that are not normally displayed. Okay, we're going to keep the key signature here. All right, D flat. And we can also show the accidentals. Okay, that could come in handy when you're first learning. You can always come back and turn that off if you want to, okay? So we're going to choose fretless bass staff, which is the only one showing right now. Makes it a little easy. We're going to show the accidentals just so I can show you what they look like, okay? And ta-da! So we can see the pitch name, and we can actually make that a little bit bigger. We're going to zoom in just a touch so we can see that. Okay, my window here is just a little small, but this is going to give you an idea of what you can expect to see and some things you can use. So you can see the pitch names, you can see the accidentals. Now we could go back and choose not to show those accidentals. Okay, and so here you'll see it with just the pitch names. You're going to assume that you know what the key signature reflects as far as accidentals, and it's sort of a handy progressive step process for as you're learning the notes on the staff, perhaps as you're learning fingerings for different instruments. Okay, so now what you'll see. And as you heard before, there was a little count in. Okay, if you need time to get ready for your instrument or something like that, and that's what I've done. I added using Perform and the pickup beat option. Okay, you can use this if you just want to play a song, but you want, you know, a beat or want a measure or two to kind of get your act together before the band starts playing, as it were. Okay, that's what I did here. Okay, you can set this to play the pickup only for recording. Now that's not an option in Musician, but you can play the pickup for playback and recording. In other words, it's going to play the pickup no matter what you're doing. Okay, and you can also select to play the pickup beats even if the metronome is silent thereafter. Okay, there's also an option to play the metronome throughout the entire piece. Sometimes that can be very helpful when you're practicing. For this particular song, we have drums in it, so I'm not going to opt, but I'll show you where that's at in just a second. You can set how many full measures you want to count in before it's the starting measure. Okay, and I had set it to 2, so that gives me plenty of time to get my bass ready. And you can save that setup as default if you want to, or just save it for this particular song. Okay, I'm going to save it for this particular song. So, and let's see, we were going to show you. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Yeah, you can have the metronome. You can set up the metronome sound. I'd strongly advise you to use the MIDI device. A lot of computers nowadays don't have a computer beep sound anymore. Some people with older computers do find it helpful to use the beep sound for different reasons, but typically using your MIDI device will be your best bet. You can choose your different instruments for which beat you have, and you know, how long it'll sound, da-da-da. Okay, and you can audition that. Okay, so we're going to select that OK. Rewind everything here, and then we can watch the song highlight the notes as they play. There's our count in. Here it goes. Okay. You can typically have your screen up a little bigger for a practice session. Now, that's clipping along pretty darn good, and I still can't play it that fast yet. So what you can do, a couple of different things, okay? And this is where there are a lot of tools that you can use for your practice sessions. I'm going to turn this up just a tad. You can use your percentage for the tempo here, okay? And you can set that down. I'll be honest, I actually started out at 60. I'm up to 120 now. Still not at 180 though. My fingers just kind of fly all over the thing. Or flail, I should say, not fly. I want to get to fly. Okay, so you can set it for as slow or as fast as you want using the percentage thing. Okay, or another option that's very cool is the practice session. Okay, now with a practice session, you can select the measures that you want to practice, or you can set up rehearsal marks. Now, you'll see the drop list, I actually have a number of rehearsal marks already set up. We'll go through this here, and then I'll show you in just a second the rehearsal marks that I have and how to enter some. Okay. And also here you'll see for your practice settings, you can count however many lead-in measures you want, and that'll go for each loop. And again, that's, you know, if you need to kind of catch your breath between loops or get yourself set up beforehand or whatever, you can do that. You can set a pause if you want to set, you know, so many seconds between, again, to kind of catch your breath or whatever between. You can do that, or before you get started. If you need to, you know, if you play clarinet and you're playing a really fast passage and you want to, you know, take a second or two to catch your breath between practice loops, you can set that here. Now, this is very handy. You can set your first loop at a certain percentage of the tempo. Okay, say if you want to start out slow and then work up to speed, you can set it as low as 10%. You can start out really slow. Okay. Or you can start out, you know, at something more like 50, and that's kind of what I did. Okay, you can set how many repeats per practice session. Okay, if you want to spend, you know, 6 loops going from 50% to 100%, that's what I've got set up here. And again, you can do, you know, going from rehearsal mark to rehearsal mark. Now, I'm going to save this and exit. You could also just save it and go jump right into practice. Okay, but I'm going to save it and exit because I'll show you what I did for mine. Now, I'm going to use my scroll wheel to move through the score here, and you'll see it's a lot of the same thing. So, for instance, what you can do then is you can select a region. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here just to show you how you can do that. Now, as I mentioned, I've got the display here kind of scrunched because I'm shooting a video. Typically, I'd have this much larger, so it's a little bit easier to do those types of selections. So, I'm going to select measure 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and show you how when you do that, perform, practice setup. Okay, you can actually practice the section that you've got selected. Okay, that's kind of odd. So we could do that. Save and exit. It would run through this here. You know what? I see why. Because that note is tied into measure 5. That's why. Okay. So it would go through that, and it's going to go on over here too because that's a tied note. Okay. Or you can use rehearsal marks. Okay. Now again, this is kind of small. Okay, so here here I have this little walking thing. Now, you'll also see something else that I did, kind of a cheater thing, but hey, it works. Currently, neither notation musician nor notation composer have tablature fingerings. Okay, so in other words, for bass players or guitar players, we don't have tablature. So what I've done is I've actually kind of cheated, and I used the text lyric tool, and I put in little tab notes to myself. Okay, 3, 6. I play a 5-string bass, so or not always, but I typically play a 5-string bass. So 3, 6 means 3rd string, 6th fret, 4th string, 5th fret, okay, and so forth. So essentially what I've done is to include some fingerings. You can do that for any instrument. You can add it. I added it as a lyric because the lyric will be associated with the note as it plays. Okay, I'm going to show you that here. I'm going to hold the P key. I'm going to click in the score, so it's going to start playback right here. I'm also going to slow that down substantially, so you'll see that as it plays, the fingering shows up. Okay, see how that happens? That's one of the nice things about kind of cheating with the lyrics, to do any type of fingering annotation. Now, another bonus to that is that when I don't want to depend on that thing, I've got this little hide tool right there. Okay, so I can hide that. Or if you want to print the score and you don't want your cheat notes to show, you can just turn them off. Okay, you turn it back on when you're practicing and nobody will know. Okay, so now let's say that I want to practice this section right here. Okay, I'm going to turn on my cheat notes. I'm going to go to perform, and I'm going to go to my practice setup. And what I want to do is I actually want to practice this setup here. I want to go from Rehearsal Mark 2 to Rehearsal Mark 3. Okay, so we're going to practice from Rehearsal Mark 2 to Rehearsal Mark 3. We're going to count in 2 lead-in measures before that happens, and we're not going to pause any between loops. Start at 50%, go to 100. Let's do 4 of those loops. That should be enough to show you what's going to work. So we're going to save and begin this practice. So there's our 2 measure count in. And you'll see that the 2 rehearsal mark is lit in green. The 3 is in red, which shows the end. Faster. Okay. Again, that was a little bit hairy because it's flipping back and forth. On a regular size screen, though, you can set that up so that you're not going back and forth. Your scrolling will be smooth. But that's essentially what you can do with the rehearsal marks. Now, to add rehearsal marks, they're under text, rehearsal marks. You just want to be in add mode, and we're going to go, I've got 8 of them because I had put them every 2 measures, and so I could, what I did as I've been learning this piece was I initially started with, I went from 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and so forth. And then I started skipping. I'd go from 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5, and so forth, and then I combine them more. So that's actually a nice use of rehearsal marks, because you can use them to sort of digest chunks of your score, and it's a nice way to keep track of where you are. You can always go back and you can, again, same thing here as with the lyrics. If you don't want to have them, you can hide them. Okay, so if you want to use them for practicing, but you don't want to print them on your score, just hide them. Same thing for the lyrics here. Okay, and to do that with it, just click on one. It'll take you right to the particular menu. Okay, so we can go from having a nice setup there, and you can excuse me, change this so that we're not going to show the pitch names. Here you've got a score that then would be ready for printing. Okay, we go back to the lyrics, show the lyrics, show the rehearsal marks, and you're ready for practicing. Okay, so it's pretty versatile, and you really don't have to do anything extensive to your score. Another item that I can show you here is that you can, let's take a look. We're going to show the staff controls. You can mute the part that you want to play and still have the band play. Okay, so if we want to go back here, we'll actually go all the way to the front, and let's say that I've gotten really good, and I actually am up to about right here. We can mute that, okay, so that now we're going to play it, and so the bass should be coming in, okay, and then the piano's going to kick in, and you can play along. Excuse me. You can play along with the rest of the band while you play the particular part that you're looking at. Okay. Another thing that you can do is you can actually have it emphasized. Okay. If you want to, maybe you're just listening to a part and you really want to hear how it goes. If you select the staff, okay, then moving the volume is going to do different things to that. Okay, so you'd start out with it in the middle, and we'll just sort of illustrate that, because as you move the volume down, it affects just the volume for the selected staff. Okay, so you move it up, it's going to lower the volume for the other instruments, while it helps you to focus on hearing the one that you've got highlighted. Okay, so I'm going to play the file and let you hear, and you can watch the volume change and see how that affects what you hear. Okay, so now we're moving the volume slider down. Back to about the middle. Now we're going to move the volume slider up. So that aspect can help you focus on your hearing, what you're hearing from the file. That's an artifact, sorry about that, from my video thing, from recording. Okay, so that's another handy tool that you can use when you are practicing. So you've got within your text stuff, you've got rehearsal marks that you can use. You can use lyrics for doing fingering, notation and stuff that you want. You can use display pitch names and note heads. there's in the Perform menu, there's Practice Setup. Okay, lots of different things that you can do. So I hope that will at least get you going. Oh, don't forget you can change your tempo right here on the toolbar. Hopefully that's enough to get you going, and you can have lots of fun learning new songs. Don't forget you can find literally hundreds of thousands of song files on the internet. A lot of them are done really well and will help you to learn how to play songs that you want to learn. Enjoy!